Whoa, whoa, whoa. You really thought I was going to show you the secret ingredient your music videos have been missing? Yeah, you're right. I'll show you. In this tutorial, I'll spill the sauce on 3 effortless paper effects for Premiere Pro that are going to completely change your editing game. But the real sauce comes if you stick around all the way to the end, where I take those 3 effects and combine it into one massive collage that your clients will literally be begging for. So this first paper effect and transition, where one clip grows into the other with like this circle ripping look, super easy to do. Find 2 clips you want to transition between. So we got Yachty here in orange and then Yachty by this ladder, and then go up to Window, Essential Graphics, and make sure that's checked. And then a panel should pop up that looks something like this. So inside of the Ultimate Texture Bundle V3, the paper effects and transition pack, both the paper effect and paper transition folder will both have 10 pre-animated Mogarts. So all you have to do to import them is just drag it in like this and drop it. If you don't have the Ultimate Texture Bundle V3 yet, I do have a free sample linked in the description where it has a Mogart where you can kind of follow along and do the same process. So just to clearly show you the difference between an effect and a transition, I'll do one of each. So if you drag an effect on, it basically says circle and then effect, or you can see it says slide down and then transition. One being an effect, one being a transition. Let's drag in the circle effect, and then there's also a circle grow transition. So we'll drag that in. If you click on the template in your timeline, you can see it says circle, put footage here, and then background, put footage here. And whatever section is the green highlighted is where your footage is gonna go. So whatever clip I drag into here is gonna go in that green circle. The difference is the transition goes from one clip to another, and the other one is just more of a picture-in-picture effect where it kind of just is a nice aesthetic, but there's no transition actually happening. So let's go ahead and show you how to seamlessly transition between one clip to another. So drag in one of the transitions, whatever one you want. As you can see at the beginning of the transition, there's this green circle. So we need our second clip to start right at the beginning of that. And then we also need our first clip to last the entirety of the transition. So we need to drag it like this. That way both clips have footage underneath the transition. So then in the project tab, find out which clip is your first clip. For us, it's this orange. And we're gonna drag that to where it says first clip. And then we're gonna go ahead and drag that second clip of Yachty at the ladder right there. And then as we play that, you can see it's probably not lined up exactly perfect. You can see there's a little glitch between the orange here. So all we're gonna do is split our clip on this orange layer, click Control C, click on the transition clip, open up the orange clip that's a little bit mismatched time-wise, and then double click on the thumbnail. Then all you're gonna do is press Control V, and it's gonna paste this footage, and it's gonna be perfectly lined up now. And just like that, we have a seamless transition between our 2 clips. For our second paper effect, and probably the easiest out of all 3 of the effects, we're gonna make our video look like it was printed out on paper and then scan back over to the computer and make it look laggy and kind of like that printer paper aesthetic. So to do that, I'm going to import the printer paper overlays from the Ultimate Texture Bundle V3. And then inside of the pack, there's printer paper overlays clean, crumble, and scratch. For this first clip, let's go ahead and use the scratch overlay. Now inside of each type of paper, there's going to be 12 overlays. There's going to be 3 different qualities, high, medium, and low res on the paper. And then there's going to be 4 different frame rates. So 24, 12, 8, and 5. So for this first clip, I was thinking something like medium res scratch at 24 frames per second. Let's go ahead and just drag that into our timeline. And then under effects controls, if you're selected on your paper layer and change it to screen, you're gonna have that printer paper overlay already. Now that's a cool aesthetic already, but I wanna show you how to sauce it up a little bit more. So let's go ahead and use the printer paper overlays clean. And then inside of there, use the low res clean at 8 frames per second and drag that over our second clip. And then change that to screen. Now when we play that, the paper's at 8 frames per second, but our footage isn't at 8 frames per second yet. So to change that, if you use posterize time, drag that onto your video clip and then change that frame rate to 8. It's gonna make it line up with our paper overlay and make it laggy. And now there's a few other effects that I like to drag on to sauce it up even more. So one of them being noise. You drag that onto your video clip, change it to something like 10. I'm gonna turn off color noise, but you can do whatever you like. Another one I like to use is RGB curves, and then go to just the master and kind of just play with the curves. Give a nice little S curve, make it look like it's kind of like almost overexposed and kind of like washed out like this. I think that looks really good. And then you can also add something like tint. You could get the black and white aesthetic, or something that I'm gonna do is like drag on like a green like this. And that's gonna be way too much for what I'm going for. So if you change that number down to something like 20, it's gonna have a slight like tint to the paper like that. And you can do any color you want. Like if you wanted to make it yellow, let's actually leave it yellow. I like the way that looks. And you can see here is before all the effects, but then when you combine that paper overlay with all the other effects, you get something way cooler like that. So just copying and pasting those effects to your other clip can make a big difference too. So the third paper effect is the paper collage effect and transition. With the V3, I made it really easy to make these paper collage effects just inside of Premiere Pro, because before I was using Photoshop and just overcomplicating everything. So I'm gonna show you how to make these paper collage effects just inside of Premiere Pro within a few seconds. So inside of the paper collage pack, I'm gonna import everything besides that PSD. Whoa, what just happened? What the? let's go ahead and transition from here to that collage effect. To right click, and I'm gonna make a frame hold, and now our clip's gonna be frozen like this. Inside of the printer paper overlays, there's a PNG folder, and I'm just gonna use one of these low res PNG cleans to put over to start the collage. That way it just matches the transition like that, so it kind of just feels a little bit more like smooth transition. Now to make a collage, I would just take screenshots from your video of stuff you find interesting. So to do that, just go to a frame you want to add to your collage, and then go to export frame. You can hit Control-Shift-E or go to this photo icon at the bottom. If you don't see that, it most likely will be in this plus bar, and then you can just drag it in like that. Go ahead and click export frame, and you can import it into your project. Now just drag that into your timeline, and then inside of the paper collage pack, we can find something that we want to put Yachty's face on. That's like a piece of paper. Let's go ahead and use one of the circles, and let's go use the circle OG paper right here, and just drag that into our timeline. The easiest workflow is to highlight both of the clips, so the layer that's the image and then the layer that is the piece of paper. Highlight them and then go to nest. We can name this circle, and then go inside of that nested sequence. Let's drag our clip to video layer 1, and then drag the circle to video layer 2. And then we can turn our paper overlay to screen, and then click motion and just scale it up so our image fits properly like this. And I want all of Yachty's face in there. And then while selected on the paper overlay layer, hold Alt and drag it up, and that's gonna duplicate it. And then under effects controls, if you go to track matte key and drag that onto your video layer, and then go to matte and go to video layer 2, you can see your video clip is perfectly masked out to this paper texture. And I want to explain how this works. That way, when you make collages in the future, you understand this and you can make more complex stuff. So the top layer is the layer that's going to be screened. That's going to be like the paper texture. The bottom paper texture is just the mask for the video layer, and then the bottom layer is obviously your footage. So you're always gonna have a duplicate of your paper layer, and the top layers always needs to be screened. The video track matte, the video layer, always needs to be on the bottom of the two paper textures. So for example, ours is a video layer 2, but if we were to drag it up like this, it would no longer work. So we would need to go to matte video layer, and you can see it's on video layer 4 by it saying V4 here, and that's the bottom paper texture. So all we have to do is change it to V4 and it will work. And then going back to the main sequence, we have this nice overlay like this. You click motion, you can scale it and bring it however you want. Let's go ahead and put it up here, maybe rotate it a little bit and put it like that. And then one way I like to animate these collages in is by using brightness and contrast, dragging that onto our clip and keyframing the brightness and contrast both up just a little bit so it's like white like this, and then going 2 frames forward and setting them both to 0. That way you have a nice flash like that, and it's kind of like a camera style effect. And then also adding on the transform effect and just keyframing the position, going 1 frame forward, changing it a little bit, going another frame forward, changing it again, and just do that a few times, or you could do it throughout the duration. It doesn't really matter. If you just want it to be like a nice little shake in, you can do that, or you can have it shake the whole time. So if you want to have it shake in like that, that's a good transition. Or if you have any shake presets or want to keyframe them manually, you can do it that way. I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to drag on my Twizzy shake, and you can see how it just continuously shakes like that throughout the whole entire duration. And I want to transition into this clip right here. So let's go ahead and take a screenshot from the first frame of this clip and import it back into our project. And let's find something a little bit more complex like this horizontal third rip. That way there's 3 separate pieces, and drag that into our timeline like this. I'm just gonna stack them up like this and highlight our image and then the 3 paper overlays and go to nest, and then go into that nested sequence. So first of all, we know this first paper is gonna pop up like this and last 2 frames, and then go to the second one. So let's go ahead and duplicate that first piece of paper and turn the top one to screen, just like before. Go to effects and drag on that track matte key just to our video layer, just like how we did before. And we can see that bottom one is on video layer 5. All we have to do is change it to video layer 5. And we want this one to last the duration, so we're going to drag it all the way out. And now when the second piece of paper comes up, we want the image to pop up here. So let's go ahead and duplicate our paper layer just how we always do and turn it to screen. And then we're gonna have to duplicate our photo layer as well, but we don't want it to start until this starts. So it should line up the exact same right here. And you can see it's not popping up, and that's because we have it on video layer 5 when it needs to be on video layer 7 here. We just change it to video layer 7. And it auto fixes it. And then lastly, you guys get the idea, duplicate the paper layer again, change that top one to screen, and then duplicate our photo layer, make sure it lasts the same duration. And then because the bottom of the 2 is on video layer 9, we just go to that picture layer, go to video layer 9. And now our piece of paper animates up like this. And those are the 3 paper effects I used to make this sequence, just using those techniques over and over again. And I kind of just want to show you and break down the edit. So at first I had it transition in with one of those splits from the collage pack, and then we just have the normal video, and then it goes into this paper growing transition like we showed before. And then it goes to a freeze frame of Yachty. The circle pops up, the square pops up, and then behind all of that, it's kind of masking this transition between the 2 clips. You can already see it had transitioned from the ladder scene to this wide angle scene, but you're not able to really pick up on that because all of the piece of paper in front of it, and then they slowly pop out like that. We have this overlay over our video. We have that third transition that we did with just some scale and a shake preset on it. It goes to our normal clip, and then I just keyframed a flash transition with a paper overlay with the posterize, the tint, and all the other stuff we did. And then when you combine everything, it makes an insane sequence like this. Just looks super fire, and I'm super hyped how this came out. And then I added some sound effects. If you're interested, I'll have the sound effects that I use linked in the description as well. And then I just added back in the song, and we have our final sequence like this. And that sequence right there uses the 3 easy paper effects you need to know for Premiere Pro. If you want the ultimate texture bundle or any other assets that I used in this video, I'll have them linked down in the description. That's all I got for you guys in this one.